The alarm screamed through the Baekdu like a dying animal. Corporal Daeho Kim grabbed the edge of his seat as the ship shook violently. Red lights flashed across every surface. The smell of burning wire filled the air. Everyone to the pods. Now, Lieutenant Hana Park shouted from the pilot seat. Her hands moved fast across the controls, but nothing responded. The ship was dying. Daeho unbuckled and ran toward the escape pod bay. Behind him, Specialist Taesung Cho stumbled, his young face white with fear. Daeho grabbed his arm and pulled him forward. "Stay with me," Daeho said. "We trained for this." They had been mapping the space near Varrock 7, a planet that every species in the galaxy feared. Daeho had read the files during the trip. 47 expeditions had tried to land there. None came back. The planet was marked with red warnings in every database. Death world, apex predators, ecosystem class threats. Humans called it very dangerous. Other species called it certain death. Another explosion rocked the ship. The floor tilted hard to the left. Taesung fell and Daeho dragged him up. They reached the pod bay where Hana was already sealing herself into pod 1. "Pod 2 and 3, she ordered. "I'll meet you at the rally point." Daeho shoved Taesung toward pod 3 and climbed into pod 2. The door hissed shut. Through the small window he saw Hana's pod launch first, shooting away from the dying ship. Then Taesung's pod fired its engines. Daeho slammed his hand on the launch button. Nothing happened. He hit it again. Still nothing. Through the window he saw flames spreading across the pod bay. The Baekdu was breaking apart. He punched the manual override and yanked the emergency lever. The pod exploded away from the ship with so much force that Daeho's vision went black at the edges. When his eyes cleared, he saw the Baekdu breaking into pieces behind him. Then he saw something worse. His pod was spinning. The guidance system was dead. He was falling toward Varrock 7 and he couldn't steer. Daeho grabbed the straps and pulled them tight across his chest. He tucked his head down and waited. The pod shook harder and harder as it hit the atmosphere. The metal screamed. The heat was so intense that sweat poured down his face. The impact came like a hammer. Everything went white. Then black. When Daeho opened his eyes, pain shot through his whole body. His ribs hurt when he breathed. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead. The pod had cracked open like an egg. Through the broken door he saw green. Thick, dark green jungle surrounded him. Trees that looked nothing like Earth trees reached high above, their leaves glowing faintly with blue light. The air was heavy and hot and smelled like rot and flowers mixed together. Strange sounds filled the jungle, clicks and whistles and deep rumbling noises. Daeho unbuckled and fell out of the pod onto soft ground covered in purple moss. His survival training kicked in. "First, check yourself." He touched his ribs carefully. Cracked but not broken through. The cut on his head was shallow. His legs worked. His arms worked. "Second, check your gear." The pod was destroyed, but his emergency pack had survived. He pulled it out and did inventory. Survival knife, sidearm with 2 spare magazines, basic med kit, water filtration unit, emergency rations for 10 days. His communicator was cracked, only receiving static. Third, assess the situation. He was alone on the most dangerous planet in known space. His squad was somewhere else, maybe alive, maybe not. No one was coming to save him because Varrock 7 was under quarantine. Rescue missions here were forbidden. He would have to save himself. Daeho cleaned the cut on his head and wrapped his ribs tight with bandages from the med kit. He checked his sidearm. 15 rounds in the magazine, 30 more in the spares. Not much, but it would have to do. A sound made him freeze. Something was moving through the jungle toward him. Not one thing, many things. He could hear branches breaking and the soft padding of feet on the ground. Daeho drew his knife and crouched behind a fallen log. His heart pounded, but his hands were steady. His grandfather had taken him hunting in the mountains of Korea when he was young. "Stay calm," the old man had said. "Fear makes you stupid. Calm makes you dangerous." The creatures came out of the jungle. 6 of them. They looked like reptiles but walked on 6 legs each. Their bodies were covered in gray scales. Their mouths had too many teeth. Each one was as big as a bear back on Earth. Their eyes locked onto Daeho. They spread out, trying to circle him. Pack hunters. Smart Daeho didn't wait for them to get into position. He threw his knife at the nearest one. The blade sank into its eye. The creature screamed and fell, thrashing. The others hesitated for just a second. That second was enough. Daeho pulled his sidearm and fired 3 times. One creature dropped. He rolled left as another lunged, its claws tearing the air where he had been. He fired twice more into its side. It stumbled but didn't fall. The remaining three attacked together. Deho ran, not away, but toward a tree with low branches. He jumped, grabbed a branch, and pulled himself up. One of the creatures leaped after him. He kicked it in the face and shot it in the throat. It fell 2 left. They circled the tree below, snarling. Deho aimed carefully and fired. One dropped. He aimed at the last one, but his gun clicked empty. He had used all 15 rounds in the magazine. The last creature stared up at him. Blood dripped from wounds on its side from stray shots. It was injured but still dangerous. Deho grabbed a branch and broke it off. Not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. Then something strange happened. The creature stepped back. It looked at the dead bodies of its pack. It looked at Deho. Then it turned and ran into the jungle. Deho stayed in the tree for several minutes, breathing hard. His ribs screamed with pain. His hand shook slightly as he reloaded his sidearm with his last spare magazine. He climbed down and pulled his knife from the dead creature's eye. He cleaned the blade on the moss. Around him, the jungle had gone quiet. No clicks, no whistles, no rumbling sounds. Everything was silent, as if the whole planet was watching him. Deho looked up at the sky through the canopy. Somewhere up there, Hana and Tai Sung had landed. He needed to find high ground to boost his communicator signal. He needed to reach his squad. He needed to survive. He picked a direction and started walking. Behind him, something large moved in the shadows between the trees. Something that walked on 4 legs but could stand on 2. Something with bone blades for hands. Something that had never known fear. It watched the strange creature walk away. It had seen the small ones attack. It had seen them die. This was new prey. The apex predator of Verac 7 was curious. The hunt had begun. The sun was setting on Verac 7 and the jungle was changing. The blue glow from the leaves grew brighter as darkness came. New sounds filled the air. Hunting sounds. Deho had been walking for 3 hours. His ribs hurt with every step, but he kept moving. Stopping meant dying. He had learned that in the military. Keep moving even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. He found a cave in a hillside just as the last light faded. The opening was narrow, easy to defend. He checked inside with a small light from his pack. No animals, no nests, just rock and darkness. Good enough. Deho gathered dry wood from dead branches and started a small fire near the cave entrance. Fire was something most species in the galaxy never invented. They evolved on safe worlds where they didn't need it. But humans had crawled out of caves with fire and sharp sticks, fighting every step of the way. He ate 1 ration pack slowly, making it last. The food tasted like cardboard, but it gave him energy. He sipped water from his filtration unit. Then he opened his med kit and wrapped his ribs tighter. The pain was getting worse. As he worked, his mind went back to Korea, to the mountains where his grandfather had taken him as a boy. The old man had been a hunter his whole life. He taught Deho how to track, how to wait, how to kill quickly and cleanly. Animals are honest, his grandfather had said. They kill to eat. They don't waste. They don't torture. Respect them and they'll respect you. Deho wondered what his grandfather would say about the creatures on this planet. They seemed honest enough. They tried to kill him because that's what they did. Nothing personal. A scream cut through the night. Deho jumped up, grabbing his sidearm, but the scream wasn't close. It came from deep in the jungle, and it wasn't a prey animal screaming. It was a predator. Something was afraid. More screams followed, different animals all running, all terrified. The sound moved through the jungle like a wave. Deho stood at the cave entrance watching. In the glow of the leaves, he saw shapes running past. The 6-legged hunters from before, bigger creatures with horns, flying things with too many wings, all running, all fleeing from something. Then the jungle went silent again. Deho added more wood to his fire and checked his gun. 15 rounds. That's all he had left. He set his knife within easy reach. Then he sat with his back against the cave wall and waited. Hours passed. The fire burned low. The jungle stayed quiet. Too quiet. A sound made Deho open his eyes. He had been resting, not sleeping. Never sleep on the first night in hostile territory. The sound came again. Footsteps. Heavy, slow, deliberate. Something was walking around his cave. Deho couldn't see it. The fire had died to embers, but he could hear it breathing. Deep breaths, slow and steady. He could hear its weight pressing into the ground with each step. It circled the cave 3 times, Then it stopped at the entrance. Deho raised his gun and aimed at the opening. His finger rested on the trigger. His breath was calm and even despite his pounding heart. The creature didn't enter. It stood there in the darkness just out of sight. Waiting. Deho waited too. Minutes passed. Neither moved. Then the creature made a sound. Not a growl or a roar. Something else. A low rumbling that Deho felt in his chest. It sounded almost like curiosity. The footsteps moved away. Back into the jungle, gone. Deho slowly lowered his gun. His hands weren't shaking. Good. He added more wood to the fire and kept watch until morning. When the sun rose, Deho examined the ground outside his cave. He found tracks. The creature that had visited him walked on 4 legs, but the prints were strange. 3 toes with claws as long as Deho's hand. The prints were deep. Whatever made them was heavy. Very heavy, but that wasn't the strangest part. The strange part was that these tracks circled his cave, then led away. The creature had walked right up to where he was sleeping and then left. It could have attacked. But it didn't. Why? Deho followed the tracks for a while. They led to a clearing where something had died. A large herbivore torn apart and partially eaten. Fresh kill. The predator had left Deho alone and hunted something else instead. He studied the scene carefully. The way the animal died told him things about his night visitor. It was strong enough to bring down a creature weighing several tons. It was fast enough to catch it. And it was smart enough to kill efficiently. Deho was in the territory of an apex predator, the top of the food chain, and for some reason it hadn't killed him yet. He continued walking toward higher ground. His communicator still showed only static, but occasionally he caught fragments of a signal. Someone was transmitting, maybe Hana, maybe Taesung, maybe both. He had to reach them. Around midday, Deho found a stream. The water was clear and cold. He refilled his bottles after filtering them. As he knelt by the water, he saw another animal approach. This one was huge, like an elephant, but covered in bony plates and spines. Its eyes were on the sides of its head. A plant eater. The creature saw Deho and stopped. It lowered its head, showing its horns. A threat display. Deho knew what was coming. He had seen bulls charge back on Earth. This would be the same, just bigger. The creature stamped its feet. It snorted. Then it charged. Deho didn't run away. He ran toward it, angling to the side. The creature was big, but big meant slow to turn. At the last second, Deho dove and rolled. The creature's feet thundered past him. He came up behind it. The creature tried to turn, but Deho was already moving. He jumped onto its back, finding handholds in the spines. The creature bucked and roared. Deho held on with his legs and reached for his knife. There was a spot on the back of its neck where the armor plates didn't quite meet. Deho drove his knife in deep, then twisted. The creature made a terrible sound and collapsed. Deho jumped clear and rolled away. He stood up, breathing hard. His ribs were on fire, but he was alive. The creature wasn't. He cleaned his knife and walked away. He didn't need the meat. He needed to keep moving. What Deho didn't know was that he was being watched. High on a cliff above the stream, the apex predator stood on 2 legs, using its 4 arms to grip the rock. Its many eyes tracked the small creature below. This was wrong. The armored plant eater was dangerous. The predator itself only hunted them when very hungry. They were too risky. But this small, soft creature had killed one easily. The predator's mind worked slowly. It was intelligent more than most creatures on Verac 7. It had learned to hunt by watching, by thinking, by planning. Now it watched this new thing and tried to understand. The small creature didn't run from threats. It attacked them. It used tools. It made fire. It was damaged but still moved. Still fought. Still killed. For the first time in its long life, the apex predator of Verac 7 felt something new. Not fear, not yet, but something close to it. Uncertainty. It watched the small creature walk away toward the mountains. Then it followed, staying far back, staying hidden. It would watch more. It would learn more, and then it would decide. Was this creature prey, or was it something else? Deho walked through the afternoon. The jungle around him seemed different now. The other animals gave him space. They watched him from the shadows but didn't approach. It was as if they sensed something about him, something that made them careful. As night fell again, Deho found another cave. He built another fire. He ate another ration. And he waited for the footsteps he knew would come. They did. Just after dark. The same slow, heavy steps. Circling. watching, waiting. Daeho sat by his fire and stared out at the darkness. "I know you're there," he said quietly in Korean. "If you want to fight, let's fight. If not, leave me alone." The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then a low rumble in the darkness. Then the footsteps moved away. Daeho smiled slightly despite the pain in his ribs. He was being hunted. But the hunter wasn't sure what to do with him. That gave him time. Time to heal. Time to plan. Time to reach his squad. He fed the fire and settled in for another long night. 5 days had passed since the crash. Daeho's ribs were healing slowly. The cut on his head was almost gone. He had learned which plants were safe to touch and which would burn his skin. He had learned which sounds meant danger and which meant food. He was adapting. The mountain foothills rose ahead of him. Another day of walking, maybe 2, and he would reach high ground. His communicator was still broken, but he had hope. Every evening he caught fragments of signals. Someone was alive. Someone was transmitting. He found the ruins just after dawn. They sat in a clearing, half covered by vines and moss, buildings made from material that looked like crystal, all shattered and broken. Daeho approached carefully, his gun ready, but nothing moved. The place was dead, had been dead for a long time. He searched through the ruins. Most everything was destroyed, but he found a computer terminal that still had power. The screen flickered when he touched it. Text appeared in Galactic Common, the language all spacefaring species used. Expedition 39. Crystal Union. Day 18. The creatures are relentless. We have lost 12 members. Food is gone. Water is low. We cannot hold them. If anyone finds this, do not come to Varric 7. This planet does not want us here. Day 21. 5 of us left. We stay in the central building. We have sealed the doors. We can hear them outside, scratching, waiting. The big one came last night, the one we call the Ravager. It looked at us through the window, just looked, like it was curious. I think it knows we are dying. Day 23. 2 of us. I am wounded. Kelna is sick. The Ravager is still outside. We tried to run. It chased us back. I think it is playing with us. The Ravager cannot be killed. It cannot be stopped. It is death itself. Day 24, the final entry. I am alone. I am sorry. I tried. The screen went dark. Daeho stood in the ruins thinking. These people had lasted 24 days. They had weapons and supplies and numbers, and they still died. He had been here 5 days alone with almost nothing. What was the difference? He kept searching. In the rubble he found things he could use. A vibrating blade still charged. Much better than his knife. Pieces of an exoframe, the kind that gave humans extra strength. Most of it was broken, but maybe he could fix it. A computer chip that might have data. He also found bones, the Crystal Union members. They had died here, just like the log said. Daeho said a quick prayer for them, something his grandmother had taught him. Then he got to work. He spent the rest of the day taking apart the broken equipment and rebuilding it into something useful. The exoframe was too damaged, but he saved the power cells. The computer chip fit into his communicator. When he activated it, his communicator came to life. Data filled the screen, maps, creature databases, and something else. A signal locator. His hands moved quickly. He input the search parameters. Human signals. Terran signatures. 2 dots appeared on the map. North. Very far north. In the Icelands, Hana. Taesung. Daeho felt relief flood through him. They were alive. Both of them. He adjusted the frequency and boosted the signal using the power cells from the exoframe. Then he transmitted. This is Corporal Daeho Kim. Does anyone read me? Static. Then a voice. Hana's voice. Daeho.
You're alive.
I'm alive. What's your status? We're in a cave system in the northern Icelands. Taesung is injured. His leg is broken. We can't travel far. We've been trying to call for rescue, but no one is responding. No one will respond, Daeho said. Varric 7 is under quarantine. They won't send a rescue mission. It's against Galactic Union law. Silence. Then Hana spoke again, her voice tight. So we die here? No, I'm coming to you. Stay in the cave. Conserve your supplies. I'll be there in 12 days. 12 days? Daeho, that's 600 kilometers through this planet. I know. I've survived 5 days. I can survive 12 more. Daeho. Hana's voice cracked slightly. The things on this planet. We've seen them from the cave entrance. They're like nothing in the databases. How are you alive? Deho looked out at the jungle. In the distance, he could see the enormous footprints of the Ravager. It was still following him, still watching. I don't know, he said honestly, but I am. Save your battery power. I'll contact you in 3 days. Be careful. You too. The transmission ended. Deho looked at the map. 600 kilometers, through apex predator territory. To reach them, he would have to cross the Ravager's home ground. The place the Crystal Union called the Killing Fields. He checked his supplies. 4 days of food left. 1 magazine of ammunition. The vibroblade. Some medical supplies. Not enough. Not nearly enough, but it would have to be. Deho left the ruins and continued north. The jungle changed as he walked. The trees grew taller. The undergrowth got thicker. And the animals got bigger. He saw creatures that could swallow him whole. Flying things with wingspans wider than a house. Things with too many legs and too many teeth. But none of them attacked him. They watched. They followed at a distance. But they didn't attack. He realized something. They were afraid. Not of him exactly. Of something else. Something that claimed him. The Ravager. On the 7th day, Deho saw it for the first time. He had stopped to rest near a fallen log. His ribs were almost healed, but he was tired. So tired. He was eating his last ration pack when the jungle went silent. Complete silence. Every bird stopped singing. Every insect stopped clicking. The wind itself seemed to hold its breath. Deho stood up slowly. He gripped the vibroblade in one hand and his gun in the other. He turned in a circle, scanning the jungle. Then he saw it. The Ravager stood 50 meters away, partially hidden by trees. It was enormous, 4 meters tall, maybe more. Its body was covered in armor plates that looked like stone, 4 arms, each ending in curved blades made of bone. Its head was wide and flat, with multiple eyes arranged across it. Those eyes were all locked on Deho. They stared at each other. Neither moved. Deho had been a soldier for 8 years. He had seen combat. He had faced death. But this was different. This was pure predator, pure killing machine, evolved over millions of years to be perfect at one thing, ending life. And it was studying him. Not hunting, studying. Deho did something crazy. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He walked forward 3 steps, closer to the Ravager. The creature tilted its head. Surprised? You've been following me for 7 days, Deho said in Korean. He knew it couldn't understand words. But maybe it could understand tone. You want to know what I am. So do I. I'm not your prey. But I'm not your enemy either. I'm just trying to reach my friends. The Ravager made that rumbling sound again. Deeper this time. It rose up on 2 legs, towering even taller. It raised all 4 arms, showing the bone blades. A threat display. Deho didn't back down. He activated the vibroblade. It hummed in his hand. He shifted his weight into a ready stance. If you want to fight, let's fight. But understand this. I will hurt you. I might die, but you'll remember me. The Ravager stared. Those multiple eyes seemed to look into Deho's soul. Calculating. Thinking. Then it did something Deho never expected. It lowered its arms. It dropped back to 4 legs. And it made a different sound. Not a rumble. Almost like acknowledgement. It turned and walked into the jungle. Not running. Walking. It stopped once and looked back at Deho. Then it disappeared. Deho stood there, shaking slightly. Not from fear. From adrenaline. The most dangerous creature on the most dangerous planet had just backed down. No. Not backed down. Something else. Something he didn't fully understand. He continued walking. That night, the footsteps didn't circle his camp. The Ravager was still out there. But it was keeping its distance. The rules had changed somehow. On the 10th day, Deho reached the edge of the mountains. The air was colder here. He could see snow on the peaks. 2 more days to reach Hana and Taesung. Maybe 3 if the weather turned bad. He made camp in a rocky outcrop and tried to rest. His food was gone. He had caught and eaten some small creatures, but it wasn't enough. He was losing weight. His strength was fading. But he couldn't stop. Not now. As he lay down to sleep, he heard the footsteps again. But this time they were different. Multiple creatures. Not the Ravager. Something else. Deho grabbed his weapons and stood. From the darkness they came. The 6-legged pack hunters. Dozens of them, more than he could count. They surrounded his camp, growling and snapping. He was trapped. With no ammunition and only his blades, he couldn't fight them all. This was it. After 10 days of survival, this was where it ended. Then a roar split the night. Not from the pack hunters, from something bigger. The Ravager exploded from the jungle like a storm. It crashed into the pack, scattering them. Its bone blades cut through 3 hunters before they could react. The others turned to fight, but they had no chance. The Ravager was fury and power and death. In 30 seconds it was over. Dead hunters lay everywhere. The survivors ran. The Ravager stood among the bodies, breathing hard. It looked at Deho. Deho looked back. "Thank you," Deho said quietly. The Ravager rumbled. Then it walked away into the darkness, leaving Deho alone with the bodies and the question that burned in his mind. Why did it save him? On the 11th day, Deho found the valley. The locals called it the Scar, according to the Crystal Union database, a massive rift in the earth, 5 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide. Volcanic rock lined the walls. Steam rose from cracks in the ground. And bones everywhere. This was the Ravager's territory, its home, the place where it ruled. Deho stood at the edge and looked down. There was only one path through, a narrow trail along the valley floor. No other way around. The cliffs were too steep to climb. He understood now. The Ravager hadn't been following him randomly. It had been herding him, pushing him toward this place. This was where it had brought every challenger, every creature that thought itself strong, every expedition that came to its planet. They all ended here. In the Scar, Deho checked his equipment. The vibro blade was still charged but running low. His gun was empty. He had no food, no water. His body was exhausted from 11 days of constant movement and fighting. His ribs still ached. But Hana and Taesung were on the other side of this valley. He had to cross it. Okay, he said to himself. One more fight. He descended into the valley. The heat was intense. Sweat poured down his face. The ground was sharp volcanic rock that cut through his boots. Around him, the bones of dead things watched. He recognized some. Crystal Union members in their armor. Other species he had never seen before. And creatures. So many creatures. The Ravager killed everything that challenged it. For how long? Years, decades, maybe longer. Deho walked for an hour before he found the equipment. An energy rifle buried in the ash. He pulled it out and checked the charge. Empty. But the weapon itself was intact. He searched more and found other things. Pieces of armor, tools, medical supplies. A charging unit that still worked. The Ravager kept trophies. It kept the things from those it killed. Deho took what he could use. He found 3 power cells and connected them to the vibro blade and the charging unit. He found a partial exoframe, damaged but functional for the legs. If he was careful, it might work once, maybe twice before burning out. He worked quickly, building and repairing. His engineering training came back to him. His grandfather's voice echoed in his mind. Use what you have. Make it enough. As he worked, he felt eyes on him. He didn't turn around. He knew what was watching. The Ravager was here. Somewhere close, waiting. When the sun began to set, Deho stood up. He had done everything he could. The exoframe was attached to his legs. The vibro blade was fully charged. He had rigged the power cells to create small explosives. Not powerful, but enough to surprise something, maybe hurt it. He faced the center of the valley where the bones were thickest. "I know you're here," he called out in Korean. "I know what this place is. This is where you prove you're the strongest. This is where you kill challengers." The ground shook. From the steam and shadow, the Ravager appeared. It stood on 2 legs this time, using all 4 arms. In the dying light, it looked like something from a nightmare. A demon made of stone and blades and ancient hunger. "I don't want to fight you," Deho said, "but I will if I must. My friends are on the other side. I won't stop." "I can't stop," the Ravager roared. The sound was so loud that rocks fell from the cliffs. It was not a sound of anger. It was a challenge. In its world and its mind, strength was everything, and only the strongest could pass. "All right," Deho whispered. "Let's finish this," the Ravager charged. It moved impossibly fast for something so large. Deho activated the exoframe and jumped. The extra strength in his legs launched him 5 meters into the air. The Ravager's bone blades cut through the space where he had been standing. Deho landed and rolled. He came up with the vibro blade ready. The Ravager spun, slashing with 2 arms. Deho blocked one, dodged the other. The impact of the block sent pain shooting through his arms. Even with the vibroblade, the force was incredible. He couldn't match its strength. He had to be smarter. Deho ran toward a pile of bones and equipment. The Ravager followed, destroying everything in its path. Deho grabbed one of his improvised explosives and threw it. The power cell detonated against the Ravager's chest. Fire and smoke. The creature roared, more surprised than hurt. Its armor had protected it, but the explosion had done something else. It had made it angry. The fight became brutal. The Ravager attacked with all four arms in sequence, a whirlwind of blades. Deho blocked, dodged, rolled, jumped. The exoframe gave him speed and strength, but he could feel it burning out. Sparks flew from the joints. He slashed with the vibroblade, cutting into the Ravager's arm. The creature bled dark blood. It struck back, catching Deho across the chest. His armor absorbed some of the impact, but the force threw him 3 meters. He crashed into a pile of bones. Pain exploded through his body. His ribs, barely healed, cracked again. He tasted blood in his mouth. The exoframe sparked and died. No more extra strength. Just him. The Ravager approached slowly. It was wounded but still strong. Still deadly. It raised all four arms for the killing strike. Deho tried to stand. His body wouldn't respond. The vibroblade lay 2 meters away. He had nothing. No weapons, no tricks, no strength. He looked up at the creature towering over him. Its many eyes stared down. In them, Deho saw something. Not quite intelligence, not quite emotion, but something close to respect. "Do it," he said through bloody teeth. "But know this. You fought a human. You fought someone from Earth. We don't quit, ever, even when we should. That's what we are." The Ravager stood there, arms raised. Seconds passed. Deho's mind raced. His instructor from basic training spoke in his memory. "Humans don't have claws or armor. We have something better. We refuse to accept defeat." Deho planted his hands on the ground. His body screamed in protest, but he pushed. He got to his knees, then impossibly to his feet. He swayed, barely able to stand. Blood dripped from his mouth and nose. His ribs were broken. But he stood. He looked the Ravager in the eyes. He spread his arms. He roared, not with words. Just sound, pure human defiance. The sound of a species that crawled out of caves and conquered a world of predators. The sound of someone who would not yield. The Ravager's arms trembled. It made that rumbling sound again, but different, uncertain. Deho took a step forward. Toward the Ravager. Not away, toward. The creature took a step back. Deho took another step. The Ravager backed up again. They stood there in the Valley of Bones, the apex predator of Verac 7 and a broken human who refused to die. The Ravager tilted its head, those many eyes studying Deho one last time. Then it lowered its arms. It dropped to 4 legs. And it walked away. Not running, not fleeing, just leaving. It stopped at the edge of the valley and looked back once. Then it disappeared into the shadows. Deho stood alone in the scar. The place where everything died, except him. He collapsed to his knees, gasping. Every breath hurt. His vision blurred, but he was alive. The Ravager had left. The apex predator of a death world had given ground. For the first time in its existence, it had met something it couldn't kill. Not because it wasn't strong enough, but because that something refused to stay dead. Deho crawled to his vibroblade and used it as a cane to stand. He looked up at the far side of the valley. Hana and Taesung were there. 2 more kilometers, maybe 3. He took 1 step, then another, then another. He walked through the Valley of Bones, through the place of death, and he didn't stop. His body was broken, but his will wasn't. Behind him, on a cliff overlooking the scar, the Ravager watched him go. In its ancient mind, something shifted. This small creature had proven itself, not as prey, not as enemy, as something else. Something that perhaps deserved respect. The Ravager rumbled once more, a sound that might have been acknowledgement. Then it turned and walked deeper into its territory. It had learned something today. There were things in the universe that couldn't be conquered through strength alone. Some things survived through sheer refusal to surrender. Deho stumbled out of the valley as the sun rose on the 12th day. He had made it through. The most dangerous place on the most dangerous planet, and he was still alive. 2 more days to reach his squad. He could do it. He would do it. Because that's what humans did. They survived. No matter what. 6 days later, Daeho opened his eyes to white walls and soft light. For a moment he didn't know where he was. Then the steady hum of a ship's engines told him he was on a rescue vessel. Safe. Don't try to sit up. A woman's voice. He turned his head slowly and saw Dr. Yuna Kang standing beside the medical bed. She was human, wearing the uniform of the Terran Medical Corps. You have 4 broken ribs, a cracked collarbone, severe dehydration, and about 50 smaller injuries. You need to rest, Ahana? Daeho's voice was rough. Taesung? Alive, both of them. Lieutenant Park has minor injuries. Specialist Cho has a broken leg, but he'll recover fully. They're in the next room arguing about who gets to visit you first. Dr. Yuna smiled slightly. You saved them. Daeho closed his eyes. Relief washed over him. They were safe. It had been worth it. How long? He asked. You've been unconscious for 2 days. We picked you up from the ice caves where you reached your squad. Do you remember? He did vaguely. Stumbling into the cave. Hana catching him. Taesung crying. Then darkness. Who authorized the rescue? Varrock 7 is under quarantine. Captain Jinwoo Park. Lieutenant Hana Park's brother. He broke about 20 Galactic Union regulations to come get you. He's probably going to face a tribunal. Dr. Yuna sat down. But that's not the important part. Daeho, do you know what you did? Survived. More than that. You survived Varrock 7 for 14 days. Alone. No species in the galaxy has done that. Most expeditions don't last 1 week with full teams and equipment. You lasted 2 weeks with almost nothing. Daeho didn't know what to say. He had just done what he had to do. What any human would do. There's more, Dr. Yuna continued. We've been monitoring the planet since your extraction. Something has changed. The predator behaviors are different. Animals that normally hunt in certain territories have moved. The ecosystem is shifting. And we found something on satellite footage. She pulled up a holographic display. It showed Varrock 7 from orbit, then zoomed in on the scar. On a cliff overlooking the valley, a massive shape stood. The Ravager. It was looking up at the sky. At the rescue ship. That creature watched us take you away, Dr. Yuna said quietly. Then it did something we've never seen before. It left its territory. It walked to a clearing and just stood there. Like it was waiting. Waiting for what? We don't know. But here's the strangest part. We sent a probe down to scan the scar after you left. We found this. The image changed. It showed something carved into the volcanic rock. Not carved by tools. Carved by bone blades. 3 marks. Deep scratches in the stone. They formed a simple pattern. 3 parallel lines. This was made after you left the valley, Dr. Yuna said. The Ravager made it. We think it might be a territorial marker. Or maybe something else. Like it's claiming what happened there. Claiming the fight with you. Daeho stared at the marks. He remembered standing in that valley. He remembered the Ravager backing away. It let me live, he said. Yes. And that's what has the Galactic Union in chaos. Ambassador Kelvath from the Council arrived yesterday. He wants to speak with you when you're recovered. Every species in the galaxy is talking about what happened. They want to know how a human survived the most dangerous planet in known space. I just didn't give up. Dr. Yuna looked at him for a long moment. That's exactly what scares them. Do you know what the other species call Earth? No. They call it a Class 7 death world. The same classification as Varrock 7. High gravity, extreme weather, massive predators, countless diseases. Most species evolve on garden worlds where the biggest danger is an occasional storm. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every single day, and they survived. They thrived. They built civilizations and technology and reached the stars. Earth isn't that bad. To us, no. To them, it's a nightmare. And now they've watched one of us walk through their worst nightmare and come out alive. They're terrified and fascinated in equal measure. The door opened. Hana walked in, moving carefully. Her arm was in a sling and she had bandages on her face. But she was alive and smiling. Behind her, Taesung hobbled on crutches, his leg in a cast. Get out of my medical bay, Hana said to Dr. Yuna, but there was no heat in it. I need to talk to my corporal. Dr. Yuna left, still smiling. Hana sat in the chair and looked at Daeho. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she reached out and took his hand. You walked 600 kilometers through hell to reach us. Had to. You're my squad, Taesung wiped his eyes. He was young, barely 22. I thought we were dead. When my pod crashed and my leg broke, I thought that was it. But you came. You actually came. Of course I came, Hana squeezed his hand. My brother is in trouble for the rescue. The Union is furious, but he said he'd do it again. He said no human gets left behind, especially not one who fights like you did. I just survived. Deho, you fought the apex predator of Verac 7 hand-to-hand and made it back down. That's not just surviving, that's... She trailed off, struggling for words. That's something else. 3 days later, Deho was strong enough to walk. Dr. Yuna had cleared him for light duty. He found Ambassador Kelvath waiting in the observation deck. The alien was tall and thin, with 4 arms and compound eyes. His species was called the Vex, insect-like and highly logical. Corporal Deho Kim, the ambassador said in perfect Korean, "Thank you for meeting with me. How do you feel?" "Better. Tired, but better. I have watched the recordings from your suit's camera, the data that automatically uploaded before the crash. I have seen what you did on Verac 7. I must ask you a question and I need you to answer honestly. Are all humans like you?" Deho thought about that. "No, I'm just average. There are humans much stronger than me, much smarter, much braver. I'm just a soldier who did his job." Kelvath's translator made a sound like disbelief. "You are average. On my world, the strongest warrior would not survive one day on Verac 7. You survived 14. If you are average, then what are your exceptional individuals capable of? I don't know. I never thought about it. That is what terrifies the Council. Humans don't recognize their own capabilities as extraordinary. To you, surviving impossible situations is normal. It is expected." Kelvath moved to the window. Below, Verac 7 spun slowly, green and deadly. "Do you know why we placed that planet under quarantine? Because it's too dangerous. Yes, but also because it humbled us. For thousands of years, the Galactic Union has expanded across space. We have colonized countless worlds. We have never met a planet we couldn't tame, until Verac 7. That planet reminded us that nature can still defeat us. It became a symbol, a warning, a line we could not cross, and then I walked across it. Yes. And you have changed everything. The Council is debating right now. Some want to lift the quarantine. If one human can survive there, perhaps we can study it safely with human assistance. Others want to restrict human expansion. They fear what your species represents, and what do we represent? Evolution through adversity. Most species reach the stars from worlds that nurtured them. Humans reach the stars from a world that tried to destroy them. You are survivors in a way we are not. And survivors are dangerous." Deho looked at the planet below. Somewhere down there, the Ravager was watching the sky. He could feel it somehow. "We're not dangerous. We're just trying to live, just like everyone else, perhaps. But you must understand how we see you now. You are the species that doesn't know when to quit, that fights predators barehanded, that walks through death worlds and comes out stronger. Some in the Council want to be your allies. Others want to contain you. All of them are afraid. Of what? Of the day when humans decide they want something we have. Because after watching you, we don't think we could stop you." 2 weeks later, Deho returned to duty. He, Hana, and Taesung were assigned to a new ship, the Halasan, commanded by Captain Jinwoo Park. The tribunal had cleared him of wrongdoing. Humanitarian rescue was the official ruling, but everyone knew the truth. Humans took care of their own. Laws be damned. The story of Verac 7 spread across the galaxy. Other species talked about the human who fought a Ravager. Songs were written. Stories were told. And slowly, the way the galaxy saw humanity began to change. They were no longer just another species. They were the Death Worlders. The ones who came from hell and made it home. On Deho's last night aboard the Halasan before shore leave, he stood in the observation deck looking at the stars. Dr. Yuna joined him. "I got a message today," she said, "from the Union Science Division. They sent a probe to Verac 7 to monitor the Ravager. They wanted to see if it had returned to normal behavior. And it hasn't. It's still in that clearing. Still waiting. And here's the strange part. The probe detected signals. Radio frequency, very basic. The Ravager is making sounds that match human communication patterns. Not words, just patterns, like it's trying to communicate." Deho stared at her. "With who?" "With you, maybe. Or with humans in general. We don't know. But that creature that never feared anything, that ruled its planet for who knows how long, has changed. You changed it. By refusing to die, by refusing to submit. You made it understand that it's not alone at the top of the food chain anymore. What do we do? The council is debating that. Some want to study the signals, some want to ignore them, but I think the most important thing has already happened.